Hey everybody, Bryan asked me to sort of create a little video for people who might be having some trouble converting their classes to virtual format and giving some ideas for, how other people are going to do it. So I'm going to give you an example for what I'm planning on doing for my microbiology class, because that's the one that I think is kind of the more full-fledged, going to have, I think, the most traditional teaching type that's going to sort of have to be converted into a virtual classroom. So my microbiology class consists of two sections of lecture for about 40 to 50 students. It's about 35, 45 students, so it's about 70, 80 total students across both sections. There's also a laboratory component, which has to go and get converted into a virtual laboratory. I think that's a discussion for another time, so I'm not going to talk too much about the laboratory. I'm going to talk about what I've been doing to get the lecture ready. So normally my class meets twice a week, and I usually will have a PowerPoint presentation, which consists of most of my lecture. I try to use that time to break up and I try to ask a few questions in the middle of lecture, various sort of little types of active learning questions, some recap questions using Poll Everywhere, or some sort of summary at the end, some think, pair, share, a few things. I try to do one or two things a class. But fundamentally, it's mostly a PowerPoint presentation. So now things are going virtually, and the simplest thing would be to just take Zoom and run a Zoom classroom, where that, instead of having it, sort of just take that and give my lecture live via Zoom. And I think that's a good strategy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I've decided to try to do something a little bit different. I'm going to actually end up doing what's akin to flipping the classroom. So I'm going to pre-record my lectures, and I'm going to upload the recorded lectures in a way that I ask students to watch those before they come to class. And then I'll use the class time to do more active learning and take the opportunity to sort of have more broad discussions, not only about the material that I've asked them to watch, but it will also give me time to sort of ad-lib discussions about coronavirus, which is, being a microbiology class, it's a very important and appropriate topic. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I'm going to be doing those changes. Another thing that's sort of in the background here is this class is usually exam-based. So normally what I do is I'll have weekly quizzes that are supposed to be formative, low-stakes quizzes, and I do that via Blackboard. And then those sort of all lead up to several unit exams throughout the semester that are summative assessments. So I've already built in some quizzing into Blackboard. I'm hoping that that's sort of a small step to transition to an exam-based system on Blackboard, but I've never actually done that. So let me start there. Usually what I'll do is during each week, I'll create a series of questions and I put them up on Blackboard, and I'll use the Blackboard testing quiz module, which is finicky, and so many things with Blackboard are tedious and seem unnecessarily so. But this is there, it does work, and once you've learned some of those quirks, it's not so bad. So it's in the testing quizzes module. And what you can see, and this is my Blackboard page for one of my microbiology sections, I have all of these quizzes. So throughout the entire semester, I've been having these quizzes week by week. The way that it's worked is that, I'll put up a quiz on a Friday, and then the students have until the end of the day on Monday to do the quiz. And I make it so that they have to get at least a 70% on a single attempt in order for it to count. It's graded pass fail, basically. And this is all in an effort to discourage cheating. I can't prevent cheating, and nor am I trying to sort of make them not cheat. I mean, that basically the incentive I give them is that, if you cheat, that you're not going to be getting the sort of the benefits of this formative assessment that tell you how well your learning is going. If they cheat, it's hurting themselves. But that's the way it works. So to create an exam or a quiz on Blackboard, just going to go and assessments and click new test, and click create. We're going to give it I'll just do something here, example test. I could go in and give it a description, list some instructions. I'm not going to do that here. It doesn't really matter for this example. Click submit. So now this test is sort of, the scaffold of this test has been created, but you have to put questions in there. There's different ways of doing this, and it actually gets pretty elaborate. And I would say that I've only ever scratched the surface of what can be done with the testing module within Blackboard, because I've never had to dig any deeper. But that's going to be changing, I think, now. So you can use Blackboard and create your questions here one by one. And there are a lot of different types of questions you can create. My impression, and I've not actually done this because I think it's really tedious and slow, especially given the fact that I have access to a whole giant pot of questions that I've been sort of formulating and using and recycling and updating for all of my exams for the last several years, and I can get some from online. So I have this sort of pot of existing questions. I don't want to have to go and retype every single one that I want to use one by one with this create question method. So I've not really used that very much. There's a mechanism to upload questions, but in order to upload questions, you have to upload questions that are in a format that Blackboard recognizes. So there's a tool that's available by CTL called the Blackboard Exam Converter. So it's right here. And there's a video, right? So you can get to it. You can see the link here, MYT edu CTL BB _exam _converter. And I think I've watched this video a couple times, but it's pretty straightforward, right? You have to sort of put your exam questions, your test questions into some basic syntax that the converter will be able to understand, and then do the sort of the small little naggy details of ensuring that all the sort of the spaces and tabs are correctly aligned so that Blackboard will import it correctly. So you could read all of these other things. Ultimately, what you do is once you have your test in the correct format for this converter, then this will then do the hard work of sort of making sure it's correctly formatted so that Blackboard can import it. So it's kind of a two-step process, but it's still easier than going one by one with the Blackboard, sort of in the Blackboard mechanism. So here's an example of a quiz that I've given my students. And I'm not going to go through all of this with you, but I just want to highlight the first couple questions here. So if you want to create a multiple choice question, for instance, you start that question with MC with a little up caret, and then you have your question, and then you have your answer options. And the correct answer is designated with a little star. And you can do true, false questions. You can do a whole variety of different questions, but I really haven't explored that too much. So you do that for all of your questions, save it as a text file, or whatever file you want. I use a text editor because it's better at sort of showing differences between spaces and tabs, but you could do this in Microsoft Word too, or Google Docs. But when you've got it the way you want, then you copy and paste it into the box. Click the Convert to Blackboard Load file. That's going to download the Blackboard file to your computer. And if it's correct, you don't really have no way of knowing that unless you do this. You're going to go and click, you're going to import in this case, this is one that I've already done. So this has been converted already. So I click submit. You can give it a point value per question, and it recognizes it. So it's taken all of those questions that were in that text file, converted them into a format that Blackboard can recognize. And you can see all down here, the correct questions are there. And then if you're happy with it, then you click OK. So example test has been created. Blackboard sees it. The questions are there. So then you click submit. And now you have a whole bunch of other parameters. And this is basically setting how the students access the test. You've created the test and sort of what the questions are, but now you have to create how the students see the test and how they're presented the test and how they're graded. And there's a whole variety of different options for this too. So you can have descriptions and instructions. You can sort of make it available to students, make announcements to students. You can give students multiple attempts. And that's what I do when I do these quizzes, but I'm not going to be doing that when I have an actual summative exam. You can change if they have multiple attempts. You can say which attempt is used for grading. You can sort of set time limits. You can give windows where the exam or the quizzes are available to students. So when does it become available? When does it lock and become unavailable after that window closes? You can create exceptions for certain students who might need extra time or maybe they have to take a makeup for some reason. There's different things for what the feedback for students is, and you can sort of have instant feedback in some cases, or you can have the feedback not appear until after they've gotten a grade. There's all kinds of different variety of options here. You can then show how the test is presented. So you can have all the questions on one screen, so they can just basically see all the questions and then click their answers, or you can have them go one by one. You can make it so they can't go back. You can randomize the questions. These are all, you can do all of these things here to try to discourage or make it difficult to cheat, but students can, if they really want, find ways of circumventing some of these options. There's other things you can do where if you can create multiple versions of sort of the same set of questions, you can have different exam questions that basically test the same concepts. And I have faculty friends who are doing that too. So when this is done, you click submit, and then the test would be posted, however it's meant to be presented. So that's an exam and a quiz. Let me tell you a little bit about the lectures. So I've been using Blackboard for a long time now. And usually what I've been doing, so for several years, is that I will take my lecture notes and I will upload my lecture notes, which are in PowerPoint format, or I'll convert them to a PDF first, but they're slide-based. And I upload them to VoiceThread. So because they're a presentation format, each slide is sort of designated here, and you can see you get this tile-based format. And this has been really convenient, at least in my view, because it allows students to view the presentations and sort of click slide by slide. And when they're studying, if they have any questions, they can ask it in VoiceThread asynchronously. And so in an ideal world, this works great. Now, students don't use this as much as I would like. I don't really understand why, but that's been a sort of a nagging problem, is that they don't particularly take advantage of what VoiceThread is allowing us to do. In light of the way I'm changing the classroom, I'm going to change this up. So instead of uploading lecture slides, I'm going to be uploading recorded lectures. And I had originally intended just to throw those recorded lectures into a Google Drive folder that I share with the students, but Fran told me that we can do this all through Blackboard and VoiceThread. So there are directions for how you connect Blackboard to VoiceThread, and you can use this to create an assignment in VoiceThread, and you can actually have video content uploaded to VoiceThread. I was like, oh, this is great. I'll give it a go. So what I've done is I've started pre-recording my lectures, and now instead of having this as a slide deck, this is now a video, and it's a recording of the lecture that I would otherwise normally give to the class during the class meeting time. Now, the cool part of this is that in Blackboard, you can have this marked as an assignment. So when you go to create it, you can have a number of different possibilities within VoiceThread. I've simply set this up as an assignment where I want the students to watch the video. And if they watch the video, then they're going to receive credit for watching it, and that will count for class participation. You could instead make it so that they have to leave a comment or a question somewhere in the VoiceThread. And you can have a number of different other options for how these voice threads can be graded. So this is now going to make it so that I can hold the students accountable for watching the lectures before they're supposed to be discussed in class. I can give them credit for doing that. And another advantage of doing this on VoiceThread is that you still have access to be able to go anywhere in the video and ask a question, the same way you would with the normal slide deck. So somebody can ask a question by typing or leaving a video comment or whatever they want in the middle of the video. And so what will happen is, no matter wherever somebody asks that question, there'll be a little mark along the timeline noting that there's a question. So it'll be very easy to jump to that question and sort of respond. I don't know how well this is going to work technically, but conceptually it seems like a really good solution to this problem. And I like it in part because it's going to allow me to spend most of my face contact time during the Zoom live meetings instead just reinforcing material answering student questions. And then also, this is a microbiology course, so talking about coronavirus is going to be really important. So I'd like to sort of be able to have that built-in time where we can discuss what's going on in the world, both sort of what's happening sort of at their level, but also talk more about the science and what we know what's happening and what everything means. So I think that covers a lot of what I'm going to be doing. The way that I'm doing these recordings, you can do them in Zoom. I think Zoom is a great tool to be able to do this. Another faculty member recommended a different piece of software called Open Broadcaster software. This is free. It's widely used by video gamers to record their video game sessions, and they upload them to YouTube and such, or Twitch. So it's good at capturing webcam video at the same time as some other screen recording, which could be your PowerPoint. So it's really good at capturing a video. It's not a video editor, so kind of like Zoom, everything is done on one take, unless you want to introduce some other piece of software that has the editing capabilities built in. Either one will get the job done. I haven't used Open Broadcasting Studio or Zoom for recording lectures enough to have an opinion on which one is necessarily better, but they're two different tools that will get you to the same end goal. There's other software. So I was recently somebody mentioned this software called Camtasia. This one is not free, but it's a very popular piece of software that incorporates screen capture and recording, and it builds in some editing. So you could then have transitions and do a little bit more with the video than you otherwise could if you're just simply doing a one-take capture of your video with your face, and as well as the PowerPoint video. So there's a variety of different tools, some of which are free and readily available, some which cost a little bit more money. This software you can test it out for a month, or I think they have an academic pricing that's like $150. So there's a variety of different tools available to this. And that's basically what I'm doing. My other classes, I have different approaches, but some of them are less structured to begin with. So there's a little bit more flexibility in how we're going to adapt. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to elaborate on any or all of these different types of techniques and ideas that I'm going to be employing. And I wish you all the best of luck.